The four stones in search of Cragmaw Castle were confronted by a Banshee, a Necromancer, and a horde of Orcs, only to find out that they must backtrack westward to the ruins of Thundertree in order to find the answer they are seeking.
You're headed towards Thundertree after several days of traveling westward. Gradually, the trail becomes an old, overgrown lane winding between dilapidated buildings choked in vines and brush. Ahead of you, in the middle of a settlement, rises a steep hill upon which stands a stone tower with a partially collapsed roof and an adjoining cottage. A dirt road hugs the base of the hill and winds its way between old stone houses, many of which are roofless ruins, with interiors open to the weather. Other buildings appear to be more or less intact. The whole place is eerily silent. A wooden sign nailed to a post nearby. It reads, "Danger. Plant monsters and zombies turn back now."
Splendorius says, "Okay, boys, you want to gamble with a little madness? Seems that we are given a choice here. We can simply follow this road into the town from the west. However, sometimes don't you ever get tired of just going into the town on the road? Maybe we should mix it up and we could enter from a different direction. What do you all say?"
Thereby, we would bypass this danger of plants versus zombies.
Yes, perhaps the sign is only saying that there is danger from plant monsters and zombies, and it implies if we enter from this direction, but they didn't include it in the sign because it's just obvious, and when something is obvious, you don't have to actually say it, right?
That's right, Splendorius.
I think that's very obvious.
It makes no difference to me, you guys.
Azorio, perhaps we could consider the wisdom of the ancients, for they believed that each direction held a certain significance, a certain meaning. How are you feeling today?
I have heard tell of such orientation towards directions. The east is the old because that is where the sun rises from. The west is where the new is because that is where the sun leads to. The south is, well, I forgot what they said about that, and the north is true, for at least a true north.
On my ventures in the west, I've only found lies. So perhaps this sign is just a lie to keep us from going to the true path. Maybe there's no zombies, no plants, no monsters of any kind, and we should just trudge on through here. Maybe there's no danger at all. Can we detect lies, or maybe use our perception to decide if this sign is lying to us or not? A sign of deceit.
Sandwich looks closer at the sign and the crudely painted words on the old rickety boards and believes that this sign is not telling the truth.
I think somebody doesn't want us to go this way, not because there's dangerous plants, but maybe there's treasure to be had, or maybe someone doesn't want to be bothered.
There could be a reclusive artist in here.
Artists. Can't ever trust those types.
If only we had Nethril here to consult.
Yes, sweet Nethril would have been nice to have been here. Unfortunately, he's not. So we must consult the wisdom, I say.
Of the bones. Let's roll the bones.
Yes, let us roll the bones.
Sandowish produces out of his bag some bones that he stole from Nethril's skeletons while they're playing music. We can roll these musical bones. Consult the oracle, so to say. Who wants to roll the bones for good luck?
Why are you from like Alabama all of a sudden?
I just fucked up the end of my bra. Who shall roll these bones for good luck?
I will roll the bone.
Sandowish hands Splendorius the couple of finger bones and half a rib and a tooth.
Give the old boners here a 5-knuckle shuffle.
you decide entering from the south, maybe more prosperous.
That's what the bones said? Yeah, what
Okay,
did the
yeah.
bones look? Did they just like spell out the word south in bones?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Splendorous throws the bones onto the ground.
Hold on. What if it did spell out like miraculously like south, but we were too stupid to figure it out? We were like, I don't know, guys. Does that suggest anything to you?
You spill the bones onto the ground, and you find that they make a serpentine pattern.
You know, reminds me of a tale from my childhood about a snake. You see, the snake was devouring its own tail, and it symbolized to the people about the war to the south, where there was much hardship, and people were fighting each other, and it was as if they were a snake eating itself. And yet, however, from all the sacrifices of those lives, from the hardships, from the pain and turmoil and suffering, they entered into an age of glory that had yet been undreamed of.
We quarrel with one another quite often. Perhaps if we go through the south, because the S could be representative of the south, being as south starts with S.
And a serpent and a snake.
We need to have a really set out a therapeutic session where we air our grievances against one another. And then as we enter the south, we will prosper through this reconciliation. What's going on? I'm starting to sound like you guys with your harebrained schemes.
Yes! Yes, you see, that's what I'm talking about. Once you taste glory, once you follow within the plan, you will see that the true way is the way of all things.
Sildar says, maybe it's not an S, but an N on its side.
Sildar!
What?
Why would you even say that? Your name starts with S.
Well, I mean, I just don't want to look egotistical, you know?
Well, that's very, very considerate of you. However, the die has been cast, or rather, the bones have been cast, for we shall go south. We will enter the town. And then Splendorius takes out his axe.
Splendorius leads the party around the ruins to the south, heading through an overgrown field until he finds another road into the ruins.
Splendorius stops, and then he says, Sandowish, scout. Azorio, magic.
Splendorius looks back, but Sandowish isn't next to him as usual or scouting ahead. He's actually huffing and puffing behind the party, trying to catch up. I had to pick up all those oracle bones, Splendorius. You forgot them. Here you go.
I don't want
Well, we don't want to leave behind the oracle bones.
Well, you should carry them.
Okay.
You're the rogue. You're the one who's supposed to be going and gambling and tricking people and slicing their purses while they're mesmerized by your little tricks. Isn't that right?
Okay, it just took a long time to collect them all. Maybe we should roll them on like a stone or something next time. They're all dirty now.
Perhaps we should roll them on 4 stones.
After Sandowish catches up with the party and has a discussion about the knuckle bones, they enter from the south into the ruins. There's a building to their right and a building to their left, both in various stages of dilapidation.
Splendorius says, Sandowish, go forth and make sure that there are no foes that lie in wait for an ambush. The last thing I want to do is end up some plant monster snack for the day.
Yeah, I want to look at the building on the left.
The small house appears to be in better condition than the ruined and dilapidated structures nearby. The doors are reinforced with heavy iron bars, and thick shutters protect the windows.
Sandowish is going to try to climb up on top of that building to get a better vantage point of the area.
Sandowish climbs up onto the roof of the building and looks out over the ruins to see more ruins covered in thicket and briars and the large watchtower on the hill to the north.
Sandowish silently motions for the party to continue up the path while he looks out, make sure there's no movement in the trees or anything coming out of the other buildings as they go forward.
As Sandowish waves you on northward on the road, you notice a small gray squirrel skippering around the roof nearby you.
Sandowish is gonna say, shoo, get out of here, squirrel. Shoo away.
and it scurries off into the building.
Sanduish is going to look into the crack.
Sanduish falls over to the squirrel's hole and pokes an eye through to peer into the building, where he sees the squirrel transform into a gaunt, white-bearded human man. And you see his bedrolls and other items strewn about the cabin.
Sanduish is pretty surprised by that. Oh my gosh.
The old man looks up at the crack.
Sanduish hides away from the crack.
You hear him say, "Hope that bastard's not still on my roof."
I'm gonna scamper off the roof. Sanduish goes up to the party. I just saw the strangest thing. That squirrel on the roof. It was no squirrel. It's a man with a white beard, and he's in that little hut right now. He's got a bunch of bedrolls in there and all this stuff. He's got a long white beard, and he turned into a squirrel. He transformed. I'm telling you, I'm not crazy.
Since he was an evil force or a good force?
His force is unknown. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Sildar says, "Mayhaps that's the druid we're looking for."
Yes, that makes sense. But can we be sure it is the druid we are looking for? Or perhaps it could be a dangerous foe instead?
It's hard for me to convince you since you didn't even believe the sign.
Well, just let me tell you one thing. Don't believe everything you read, Sildar. That's a little life lesson for you that'll come in handy for later. If you're so confident that it's the druid we are looking for, go up there and knock yourself if you're so brave. And he looks at Azorio and Sanduish like, get a load of this guy.
Yes, Sildar. Perhaps he should go. He's already seen me in his squirrel form. Our presence is known here. There's no need to flee. It's either a fight or a nice chat we'll have with him.
Azorio says, I've got a pretty good feeling about this. I will approach his living quarters, for I feel the zeal and the zest to go to Cragmaw Castle and supplant the altar of Maglubiet and restore it to Ogma.
Yes, finally! Azorio! That's what I'm talking about. And you see, Sildar, that's what a man looks like.
Azorio approaches the entrance to the building that Sanduish was just on top of.
Azorio walks up to the building and knocks on the front door. The door slowly opens, and the white-bearded man looks out the front. Yes?
I know you are a man of great power. We are 4 travelers who have come to this land from Neverwinter.
Did you not read the sign?
We saw through that ruse, says Azorio.
That sign was no ruse. There's zombies and plant monsters about.
All the better that you leave this wretched place and show us the way to Cragmaw Castle. I am told that you know, says Azorio.
No need for me to lead you there. I can tell you the directions.
What is your name, old druid man?
My name is Reduth.
Do you ask anything in return, Reduth, for your directions?
No, I just want to make sure you get out of here safely. I usually reside in Phandalin. I'm close to Quilleen Alderleaf. Sildar says, yes, that's who told us about you.
Splendorius is 15 feet away, and his eyes are squinted. He doesn't trust the druid at all.
Azorio says, well, Reduth, you may be pleased to know that the Red Brands, if you'd heard that they had come to the town, you may be pleased to know that they have been supplanted from their hiding spot.
Well, that's good to hear. I must warn you, though, I've seen folks in black masks and cloaks skulking around here, too. As I said, it's a dangerous ruin, so I'd encourage you to go on from here. Come in for a moment and I'll tell you how to get Cragmaw Castle.
Adventurers, come on in, says Azorio.
Splendorius says, I'm gonna listen by the door.
Suit yourself.
Sanduish will go in.
3 of the 4 stones enter, while Splendorius, paranoid, spies in from the door's entrance.
What brings you to these ruins, Redoff?
Well, I'm a member of the Emerald Enclave, and in order to keep balance in nature, I travel around and find any problems that may come. And as I said, this place is full of zombies, and I also fear a green dragon has moved into the tower. So I'm making sure that things don't get worse here. Like I said, I encourage you to leave town as soon as you can.
How are you to make sure things don't get worse with these masked men, these plants versus zombies, and now this dragon.
Well, the plants and the zombies have been here for 30 years. This used to be a thriving town until Mount Hoyt exploded, sending in these strange ash zombies.
Splendorius goes to the building to the east.
Splendorius on his own enters into the building of the east.
Axe drawn, he sniffs and he starts looking around the ruins looking for treasure or artifacts.
The ruins look as if they might once have been a farmhouse. It is now half swallowed in a dense thicket, with trees growing up through its ruined foundation. The lane continues south, a short distance past the ruins before ending in an overgrown field from which you had come. Splendorius enters into the ruins and begins searching around the old farmhouse, and he hears rustling from the doors.
Splendorius grips his axe.
Splendorius sees a plant monster enter from the south door, and then he hears another rustling from the north door, and he is pinned between the two. While these blights remain motionless, it is indistinguishable from a dead shrub, but animated. They have loosely shaped limbs of dead branches. These blights make no sound themselves other than the rustling of their limbs.
Splendorius, ha ha! And he swings his great axe to try and cut them.
Splendorius swings around with his axe towards the blight in the north door, chopping it in half as it withers onto the floor. The southern blight comes towards you and scrapes at you with its limbs, but your armor is too thick and unable to penetrate.
That's right, little man. You can't break through chainmail, can you? Or these boots.
Splendorius, after he says that, realizes another blight has entered from the south and another from the north.
Ah, shit. Druid! Call off your plants! And he attacks the one in the north.
Splendorius swings but misses the one in the north.
Ah, they're quick little buggers, aren't they?
They come at him, the three of them, swinging all at once, but two are unable to penetrate his armor, though the last one catches Splendorius in the back of the leg.
Ah, shit!
The rest of the party hears Splendorius scream, "Druid, call off your plants!" followed by a resounding, "Oh shit." Rita says, "Those aren't my plants. You better go help your friend."
All right, says Azorio. Sildar, you're the brawniest.
Sildar is already rushing out the door. He charges forth with his long sword, the Talon, as he sees two blights trying to enter into the building from the north. He quickly attacks and chops one down easily with the sword. Sandoish grabs against the stone wall and begins to climb, but it crumbles a little bit, but he's able to still scamper to the top of the wall and look down as Splendorius is surrounded by blights. Sandoish can see that there is 3 blights to the north and 4 from the south.
I'm just going to loose a bolt at one of the northern blights.
Sandoish draws back his bow and looses one arrow into one of the blights. It withers as his arrow pierces straight through his trunk, and Sandoish is able to pull a second attack.
I'll just shoot another one.
Sandoish looses another bolt. He lays low another blight. All the blights to the north have been killed between Splendorius, Sandoish, and Sildar. Now you only have to worry of the blights to the south. Azurio rushes out the building and towards the south to see several blights entering the south of the building.
Splendorius says, I'm injured! Azorio! Druid, we need fire magic out! Splendorius is gonna run out. When Sildar is coming towards him, Splendorius is not gonna stop and he's gonna shove him out of the way. Out of my way, Sildar!
Splendorius runs towards Sildar and grabs him and tries to shove him over, but Splendorius's fear makes him off balance and he shoves himself over and tumbles into the thicket.
Oh no! Ah!
One of the blights comes after Sildar coming through the north door now. A blight scrapes at Sildar, but misses as Sildar jumps back through the door. Another blight heads towards Azurio, scraping him across the chest for 4 damage. Another one comes behind the first and swings, but is unable to reach Azurio.
Sandowish will hop off the wall and attack the one that's indoors.
Sandowish jumps off the top, whirling his blade, and as he comes down, he slices the blight in 2, and it withers there on the floor of the ruined farmhouse.
Azurio casts magic missile.
Azurio, angered by the blight's attack, steps back and let loose 3 magic missiles. 2 of them hitting the blight had attacked him, exploding it into twigs and kindling, and the second magic missile hits the blight behind it, pushing it back. It begins to try to crawl away.
Splendorius is going to run into the druid's building. Hey, what are you doing in here? Just having coffee while we're fighting out there, you're monsters. Huh?
They're not my monsters.
Well, a little bit of help would be nice.
Seems like you all have it from here.
It seems like you're awfully calm when I'm bleeding here. Don't you have a band-aid at least?
I can certainly help you. And Rita begins to patch you up with leaves and ointments made of honey. His rough, calloused hands feel good on the back of your knee.
Redith, I'm sorry. I lose my temper a little bit when I am injured in battle. It's nothing personal. I'm sorry.
You needn't say anything. The last blight, surprised, slowly tries to scamper away around the edge of the building. Sildar runs through the building, past Sandowish, out the back. See the last blight slowly crawling away into the bushes.
Sandowish runs between Sildar's legs and attacks the blight.
Sandowish, in his small, round body, flies out the southern door. With his speed, slides under Sildar's leg just in time to catch the blight with his blade as it shrinks back into the shrubbery. You see it stalks, wither as it falls backwards out of the brush, dead.
Sandowish collects some of the twigs from the blight.
Sandowish now has a bag full of bone and twigs.
Splendorius, he's going to say, hey, Rutherford.
What is it?
Come here. I got a question.
Rita just looks around. He doesn't come to your call.
Hey, buddy.
Yes?
Look, just so we don't have any more of those quote-unquote surprises that popped up in the building to the east.
Which wouldn't have happened if you hadn't broken party, says Azurio.
Splendorius turns around and he says, Azurio, I was worried sick. Are you doing okay?
Yes, just a little scathed. I've been quartered. They took a quarter of my HP.
Oh, no.
As Splendorius sees Azurio has a gaping gash on his chest.
Hey, Ruthie, do your magic.
Edith doesn't pay attention.
Splendorius walks out the door. He looks down the path to the northeast.
Rita sees Azurio and says, would you like some healing too?
Yes, lay on the herbs and milk.
Rita lays Azurio down on his bed mat and slowly places honey-laced ointments and leaves on your chest with his strong, calloused hands.
Wow, very sensual.
You feel calmed and you are relieved.
Outside, Sandowish encounters Splendorius looking at the path. Sandowish says, Splendorius, what is it that you had to fear of this druid, man? Why did you leave in such a hasteful jaunt?
I just figured that we haven't really scouted around, and I didn't want to be caught unawares while we were talking to that boring old man in that room. And what if, while we were talking to him and listening to his boring stories, what if we were surrounded by those twig things? Well, that would be a really bad scenario indeed, wouldn't it? So I wanted to scout the buildings to make sure there weren't any monsters lurking nearby.
Sildar walks up and says, oh, that's a nice bandage on the back of your leg.
Splendorius says, yes. Why, Ruskin in there is quite a good sensual healer. I recommend getting patched up, but you were too busy looting that building to the east there. Did you find anything, by the way?
I don't think I was looting, Splendorius. I was merely fixing what you had broken over there.
hold on.
Maybe you were too scared while you were running away to notice.
Hey, I won't have that kind of talk. Sandowish, did you loot that building in there?
No, I just came right back. I figured we have plenty of time to loot.
Splendorius says, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And then he goes into that building.
Splendorius goes into the building and begins looking around for any sort of treasure there might be. And after he rustles around and gets down on his knees, he's dusty and dirty. He finds nothing.
There's nothing in this stupid building. I don't believe the others. They must have found something in here. Just goes to show you can't trust anybody nowadays.
Sildar this whole time was watching you rummage around the room from the northern door. Find anything good?
Splendoria says, nothing that you haven't already picked over and taken for yourself, Sildar. I know the others trust you, but just remember, even though I'll always have your back in battle, I know the greed in your eyes. I recognize your passion. We are not too different, you and I.
Sildar says, Splendorius, you have me all figured out. And he walks back into the road where Sandowish and Azurio, now with leaves across his chest, and Redith are all standing, making plans for their next move.
All right, Redith, how do we get to this Cragmaw castle?
You simply...
Or maybe we can just roll these bones and twigs to find the way. Sandowish rolls the bones and twigs onto the ground.
They scatter everywhere and you lose some of them. You lost 2 of your bones, and the twigs seem too difficult to pick back up.
Scratching his head, Sandowish says, I don't know how to read these oracles.
Rita says, there's not much to read in those bones, but if you're looking for Cragmaw Castle, it's on the south end of the Neverwinter Woods. And he gives you detailed directions to Cragmaw Castle. I won't be following you there. I still have much to do in this town.
Rita, thank you for keeping balance in this area. I can see that your contribution is a great one.
And I recommend you leave now before you get yourself in much more trouble. I think this place is too dangerous for you adventurers.
Well, I thought we'd just stay here and grind for XP.
I don't know what this XP is, but I think it might be too dangerous for it.
Sandowish says, Rita, before we go, you know how you were a squirrel earlier? Can you take on other bestial forms?
I have a few here and there, but mostly just squirreling around.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. All right, keep it neutral, bro.
Thank you. I'm just gonna squirrel away in my cabin for now if you need anything else.
One last question. This will be it, all right?
Go ahead.
All right, so since you could turn into a squirrel, does that mean when you're hungry, you could just turn into a squirrel and eat one nut and just be good for the day?
Served me well many of times. I find myself somewhere and I just change myself into a squirrel and have one acorn, and by golly, I'm certainly full for the rest of the day. Sometimes I can't even finish all of it.
So when you turn back from a squirrel into a human, does the acorn that you ate, does that grow inside of you and your stomach's full? Or does that stay the same size and like you've metabolized it? Or how does that work?
Well, that's the dilemma. I have to stay as a squirrel and travel on as a squirrel, which is sometimes faster through the woods, but oftentimes slower. But if I change back, yes, I'm hungry once again.
What a fascinating life you lead, Remus.
The strange thing is if I eat a normal human meal and turn into a squirrel, I'm just fine. I'm not full or anything.
You don't explode.
No.
That's good. Strange magic you possess.
Indeed, I'll eat several carrots and a whole head of lettuce and turn into a squirrel and I'm just fine.
Where does the matter go? The mysteries of the world.
I know. What's great though is I prefer to leave myself as a squirrel. It's much easier. Nothing's gonna stick to your bottom, if you know what I'm saying.
No need for TP.
I don't know what that is, but I usually don't have to wipe with leaves. Well, is there anything I can help you before you travel on?
Yes, might you pay us for getting rid of those tree monsters for you? Have you anything that might help us on our way?
Well, the only thing I can help you on your way is warn you, but but you didn't listen to the sign nor me warning you to leave. So I can't do much more for you than heal your wounds.
Goodbye, Redith.
Goodbye. Safe travels on your way to Cragmaw Castle.
Farewell, Redith.
Farewell.
Fare thee well, Sarita.
So should we go north through these ruins, guys, or?
Yes, but keep your wits about you, Sandwich, for I feel that the worst is still yet to be behind us.
Perhaps we should go to that tower where Redith said there's a green dragon.
Yes, that green dragon cannot be very powerful, for if it was, Redith here would be dead, wouldn't he?
Sildar says, maybe we should listen to his warnings. It is dangerous here, and we're looking mostly for Cragmaw Castle.
But maybe he's lying to us just to protect his treasure in that tower.
Yes, if I had a bunch of treasure in a tower, I too would say that a dragon guarded it.
Oh, how does Sandwich laugh?
Splendoria says, I believe in the wisdom of Azorio always, so I say we go to Cragmaw Castle. That being said, I am a little bit saddened that we don't get at least to see if there is truly a dragon in that tower, or if it's that silly old man's treasure collection.
It just depends. If Cragmaw Castle is more than a day's journey, then I am glad to poke around in these ruins and use spell slots around these haunts. If we will get there in less than a day, then I don't want to get there and have used a bunch of spell slots.
The party has taken almost a week to get from Waver Tor, coming around the south bend of the Neverwinter Wood, and gone northward from there. Doing that knows that it is a good part of 2 to 3 days travel back to Cragmaw Castle. Sildar also says, I find it interesting that the Four Stones motto used to be, we take all side quests.
Well, don't we?
I don't know, do we?
Sildar, quit speaking in riddles.
Well, it's up to you, gentlemen. Shall we go north or south?
Well, as Azorio said, and as his wisdom doth rise, as the sun doth rise from the east, mayhap we poke around just a couple buildings and see how close we can get to that tower before we depart on our journey southward.
Let us make our way towards the tower.
To the tower!
To the tower!
And Sandwich starts running. Sandwich starts running towards the tower.
Yes! Okay, so Splendorius gets excited and he starts like running, and his axe is held out towards the tower as if it's like drawing him to the tower. I can't keep up!
Sandwich and Splendorius run northward on the trail till they hit a T intersection, and then turn eastward. As they head down the road, they find spider webs across the road that make the road unpassable.
Splendorius is a hard stop. I don't do spiders. Sorry, boys. We're gonna have to take a detour.
Sandwich turns around and runs the other way up the other trail.
Splendorius says, yes! Azorio! Sildar, come!
Sandwich and Splendorius turn back around and run westward, meeting Sildar and Azorio at the fork in the road, and they run northwest, passing a cabin.
Splendorius stops. Whoa there! Hey, Sandwich, you dare to take a gander in this little building here? Perhaps we might find some cool loot or something interesting.
You look at the building. These are side-by-side cottages. Look as though they might have been the homes of a prosperous shopkeeper or well-off farmer in their time. All that remains are collapsed walls and piles of debris. Several young trees have grown up in the midst of the ruins.
Perhaps you're right, Splendorius. These appear to be the old ruins of a prosperous shopkeep or merchant. Let us rummage through these piles for loot.
Yes, Azorio, Sildar. He looks at Sandwich and winks and he says, there might be danger here. Best stay back unless we call for reinforcements. He then looks at Sandwich and he says, it's all ours. Splendorius walks up to the door and then he stands to the side and then he motions with his head for Sandwich to go in.
I'll go in.
You enter, and you just see mostly the shrubs of the trees there.
Sandwich attack the shrubs.
Sander swings into the shrubs. They begin to move and come towards you. Splendorius is quick to see the moving blights.
Splendorius is gonna say, "Hey, leave my friend alone, you shitty plant."
Splendorius moves forward and chops down onto one of the blights, splitting it in two.
Yeah.
Sandwich is going to attack with his short sword, the next one, and
Sanderwish easily cleaves one of the blights in half with his short sword as it crawls out of the shrubs.
I'm going to use my bonus action to disengage.
After Sanderwish slashes and kills one of the blights, he jumps back graciously out of their range. Azorio hears battle from within the building.
Azoria will grasp the staff of defense that was pilfered from Glassstaff, the Ass Staff's former belongings, and he will use its spell of defense that is inherent in it.
Azorio lifts up his glass staff of defense, and a light glow comes over his body from the staff. Azorio feels stronger. 4 blights pour out of the shrubbery and attack. 2 of them are able to hit Splendorius.
Oh shit!
Slashing at his arms, he's dealt damage.
I'm dying here.
Sildar rushes in and slashes at one of the blights and misses them with his sword, unaware of what's going on, unable to tell the difference between the shrub and the blights.
Splendorius is going to attack. You piece of shit!
Splendorius, angered by his scarred arms, takes his axe and cleaves another blight in half as it withers before him.
Sandwich is going to attack the one nearest him with the short sword again.
Sanduish leaps forward and slashes one of the blights and destroying it, withering among the others.
He's going to hide.
Sanduish, as the blight falls, runs forward, slipping behind one of the piles of debris.
Hey, Sandwich, where did you go?
Azoria will approach one of the blights and slash at it with his short sword.
Azorio runs in and, unsure what is blight and what is plant, slashes at a shrub, uses his sword within the shrub, disarming him.
And it wasn't even a blight to begin with.
Yeah, he just attack a tree.
Splendorius says, "Look alive, Azorio. It's difficult to know what is foe."
The 3 blights attack each one of the members of the party. Splendorius, missing one of the smaller shrubs, slashes him across the shins.
My legs are getting really fucked up.
Azorio, as he reaches into the shrub to retrieve his sword, is scratched across the face. Sildar is pierced in his chest by one of the blights and swings back, cleaving it in 2 as the blight withers inside his wound.
Splendorius is going to say, "I think we've got this, boys." And he's going to bring his great axe down on one of the shrubs.
Splendorius swings, smashing into one of the blights, cleaving it in 2, leaving one lonely blight left. Sanderwish peers over the debris and lets loose an arrow into the last blight. So powerful is the arrow that the blight erupts into twigs, showering onto the other 3 members of the 4 stones.
I'm covered in plant crap.
Bloody blight refuse.
Yes, I hope nobody has any allergies. They'd really be acting up in here.
Sildar says, "Oh,
Oh,
oh,
Sildar,
I think I got it all out."
I've got one thing to say to you. Sudafed, aisle 5.
All right, I don't know what that is. Must be some new potion.
Splendorius is going to say, "Okay, everybody, I think Sandwich and I are going to check and make sure there's no more monsters in here. Sildar, you've got the allergies. Azorio, you should maybe consult a tome. And you can see if maybe there is some remedy you can find for poor Sildar here. And Sandwich and I are going to make sure that everything's safe."
Sildar leaves the cabin out to the road to get out of the twig dust
Splendorius mutters to Sanduish, well, that was easy. And then he starts looking around.
Splendorius and Sanduish begin to search Eastern Cavern, and as Splendorius is torso deep into one of the shrubs, Sanduish finds a little hidden tile in the floor.
Sanduish, without alerting Splendorius, checks for traps on the tile.
Sanduish checks the flagstone and seems that it is safe.
Sanduish pries it open.
Sanduish finds a chest inside.
What kind of a rogue would I be if I checked for traps once but not twice? I check for traps again.
Sanduish checks for traps a second time, and the chest seems safe.
Hey, Sanduish, did you find anything that is interesting? Maybe monsters, huh?
Not yet, Splendorius. Keep looking over there. Did you find anything yet?
There's nothing in here.
Splendorius slowly emerges himself in the shrubs as he rustles around.
I'm gonna get a really bad rash after this, I just know.
Sanduish opens the chest, finds 700 copper pieces, 160 silver pieces, and 90 gold pieces.
That's it?
I'm not gonna even write that down.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
You know what had to be said.
Shout out to Buff Tony D. Splendorius says, there's nothing in here. Come on, Sanduish, let's go. And Splendorius leaves.
After we're outside of the hut, Sanduish says, I found a couple copper pieces in there, everyone. Here, help yourself. And I hold out 40 copper for everyone.
Sildar says, oh, that's kind of you.
Splendorius goes over to Sanduish and he kneels down. He puts his arm around him and he says, Sanduish, where I come from, we have a saying. It's finders keepers, losers weepers. I say this belongs to you, buddy. You've earned it.
Sildar says, yeah, keep my portion too.
Azorio accepts his.
Well, I just hope that if you guys find something, you'd do the same for me and we could all split the earnings as a group.
Well, that's why I'm not taking yours, because I live by a different philosophy. It's the golden rule, right? Treat others as you would like to be treated.
Maybe we can slay a juvenile dragon before it becomes an adult, says Azorio.
Let's keep running down the trail. All right, everyone, we only have till sundown to kill this dragon.
Splendor, and he lets Sanduish go on ahead, and he goes over to Azorio, and he says, Azorio, I have a confession to make.
Yes?
Azorio, I was not being entirely truthful when I was in that last building.
I know you just were looking for treasure. I just thought that I'd let you do that if that's what your druthers were.
Azorio, you knew this whole time?
I'm just surprised Sanduish found some. But I am a wealthy man. I only want to do what will bind the party together more as a band of adventuring brothers. So let us get to this green dragon and slay him.
You mean you're not just in this for yourself?
Well, I'm doing it to increase the awareness of Ogma, that others might find him and seek the pure knowledge that comes from the Godhead.
Splendorius squints. Yes. Perhaps you are right, in a way, Azorio. I will have to ponder these matters, but you have certainly made me reconsider certain things that I've thus far held to be true. Come! He runs up to join Sanduish.
The four stones head northwest up the path, find another cabin.
Hard stop.
Splendorius digs his heels into the road and skids to a stop.
Splendorius then holds up his hand in a fist. He turns around, he winks at Azorio. Hey, Sildar, you wait here and guard the front, and Azorio, Sanduish, and I are going to go check inside for monsters. What do you say?
If that's how you feel, I'll wait out here for you.
Thank you for being so brave. He turns around. It was much easier than I thought.
You head towards the building. A weathered signboard by the door of this large building shows a faded image of a workhorse holding a flagon of ale. The building is sagging and dilapidated, but it is more intact than the ruins across the road. Sanduish sees the sign. He realizes it is a well-known tavern for its ale that long ago disappeared, called the Brown Horse.
Splendorius says, anybody keen for a drink? Perhaps a nice afternoon cold one?
Any beer that is left in there, says Azorio, will surely be stale and mildewy by now.
You're probably right, but hey, guess what? Did you know that in one of my classes, in my younger years, we were learning about a curious thing that happens with bread? You see, it can grow certain mold or fungus, and if you happen to eat it, it can make you travel into different planes of existence, at least in your mind.
Sodar says, "Hey, have you got in yet?"
Fellow adventurers, I have heard in my travels of this long-lost tavern. Although, as I doth ponder in my mind, for the life of me, I cannot remember why it was so important.
The ale.
The ale. I've heard the ale is good.
Well, that sounds like it's pretty important to me. If you have a tavern, surely you would want to have good ale to attract patrons. If your ale is good enough, they will return for more ale. It's simple economics.
Sodar says, "Can you bring me an ale out?"
Yes, we'll make sure to bring you a nice, frothy one with plenty of mold, if you know what I mean.
And Splendorius kicks open the door.
Splendorius kicks open the door and finds a bar in front of him with tables strewn onto the floor.
Splendorius says, hey, look here. Drinks on me, boys. What do you have?
And he runs up and he wants to slide along the bar with his butt.
Splendorius runs in and slides along the bar, and the other two's enter as well to see him, as you slowly hear cracking of bones and sinew as 4 zombies, 2 against the wall and 2 behind the bar, begin to rise.
I knew this was gonna happen. God damn it.
Where there's a bar, there's mindless idiots.
Nice.
Sanduish is first to attack.
Sneak attack?
Sanduish, quick on his feet, draws his sword and slices right through the zombie as it lands before it's even able to stand.
Azorio casts Magic Missile, aiming 3 of the missiles at the other one behind the bar and one of the other ones at one of the other ones by the table.
Azorio lets out 3 magic missiles, firing a heavy blast into the zombie behind the bar, knocking him back under the bar, hitting the zombie against the wall, and it rattles and shakes. It continues to rise. Splendorius, it's now your time.
Splendorius is gonna say,
no drinking on the job.
Splendorius lets down his axe onto the zombie that was hit by the magic missiles, chopping its head off as it falls limply against the ground. Yes, the other 2 zombies are fully on their feet.
Sandwich says, would any of you like to cut a rug? And he attacks one of the zombies' feet to try to cut his feet off.
Sandor slices one of the zombie's feet that has been hit by the magic missiles, cutting off one of its foot in the process. He still limps forward awkwardly.
I'm gonna hide behind the bar.
Sanduis jumps back, leaps over the bar, and lands, looking over to see the other zombie crawling towards him.
Azorio says, don't forget about the 3 drink minimum, or should I say the 3 dart minimum.
Yeah, there you go.
And fires 3 magic missiles at the zombie on the right.
Azurio lets out 3 more magic missiles into the limping zombie, knocking it back against the wall. 1 zombie behind the bar slashes at Splendorius, who's standing atop the bar. The zombie swipes at Splendorius' feet, but he jumps back before he's able to, and the other zombie still slowly limps towards Azurio.
Sandwich will say, order up a nice cold blade for your zombie head. Stupidest thing ever. And I'll just stab through his skull.
Sandwich jumps onto the bar and lunges toward the zombie head, but there must be a bit of grease on the bar, and he slips and misses.
oh no!
Ooh.
You could die.
But he's able to catch his footing and now stands shoulder to knee with Splendorius.
Splendorius, he dances out of the way and he goes,
You haven't had your shot of tequila.
and then he swings his axe.
Splendorius swings his axe, catching the zombie and lopping off the top of its skull. The now open skull cavity is visible.
I hope you don't mind I added a slice of axe.
Azurio takes out his short sword and says, "Insert clever bar saying here," and attacks the one that limps toward him.
Azurio slashes at the limping zombie. You bring your sword across, cracking off his hand as it reaches out towards you, but it still comes slowly towards you. The zombie behind the bar slashes at Sandwich, scratching him across the chest. Sandwich's quickness, he jumps back and isn't damaged too much as the other zombie now tries to attack Azurio, but his claw of a hand bounces off Azurio's mage armor.
Splendorius says, "Sorry, this establishment only serves killer light."
Brings his axe down again, finally cleaving the zombie in two. But as he does that, a cloud of dust puffs up from the zombie, spilling dust into your eyes. Luckily, Splendorius is too high for the dust cloud, but Sandwich's low stature, he's having difficult seeing.
Splendorius yells out, "Oh no, party foul!"
Sandwich says, "Leave this party dust for the back of the toilet, man." I'm gonna jump off the bar onto the zombie and try to run him through.
Sandwich, with difficulty seeing, leaps from the bar and past the zombie, tumbling and rolling onto the ground. He's still unable to see as he gets up.
I'm gonna hide somewhere. I think is
You're gonna like feel around, like this is
I'm
a
gonna
good
feel
hiding
around
place.
to hide behind something.
You're gonna like hide behind my legs.
I'm gonna hide behind a zombie.
Sandwich gets to his tiny feet and stumbles over behind a table and flops onto his stomach.
Azurio slashes with his blade and says, "You've had enough, Mr. Zombie. You're getting cut off."
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. That's it. That's the one.
Azurio slashes again and hits the zombie in its side. The zombie's arm is now cleaved off and it only has one arm left, but it staggers forward and slashes at you again. But again, the mage armor is too much for it and its hand is knocked back. Splendorius stands upon the bar ready for action.
Splendorius goes, "Last call!" And then he jumps off and tries to cut that zombie in half.
Splendorius says that, but catches his foot on the bar and tumbles over, smashing his face into the ground.
As he's falling forward, he goes, "I'll take a pale fail."
As Splendorius says that and crashes onto his face, his axe goes flying and lands into the table, cutting through inches from Sandwich's face.
Sandwich is gonna hop up on the table, pull Splendorious's axe out of it.
Sandwich runs around to the other side of the table and grabs Splendorious's axe, and with all his might he pulls up the axe. It just pulls the table along with it across the floor, squeaking.
Azurio takes his blade and says, "Why won't you die again?" and slashes, closing his eyes upon impact.
Azurio hits again. The zombie is severely hurt. It's now chopped off its other arm, but it still slowly crawls towards you. It bites at you, but it's too awkward and it can't make it through your mage armor as its head's shot back by the mage armor's force. Splendorius, lying on the ground, you're ready to take action.
Splendorius, he stands up. He says, "Hey, buddy, we're closed. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." And then he runs forward and he tackles the zombie and tries to tackle him out the door.
Splendorius runs forward and spears the zombie, folding it in half as they go flying across the room.
Sandwich is now just gonna push the table, roll it though. Sandwich is gonna say, "This round's on me," and roll the table into the zombie.
That's a good one.
You push on the axe handle and the table turns over and rolls for most of the way and then hits the flat spot and then rolls and hits the flat spot and it's like a limping tire on a wagon and it rolls over slowly and bumps the zombie in the head lightly.
Azurio attacks He does a little whirligig with his sword and attacks the final zombie that has no arms.
Azorio whirls his sword around wildly, slicing the zombie's face in half, and it goes limp as its arms curl around Splendorious.
Wait, it doesn't have arms anymore.
Oh, the zombie goes limp as it curls around Splendorious.
That's a pathetic sight, says Azorio.
Splendorius says, well, sorry about that, fellas. I think I got a little carried away with the puns there. All right, boys. How about I search this room and then you search that room over yonder?
What if there's more zombies in that room, says Azorio.
I hope there are. I've got 1,000 more of those babies. Just believe me, they're just gonna keep on coming. Bring them on. I got jokes for days.
You are beginning to revel in the sharpness of your wit as much as the sharpness of your axe.
Azorio, I will take that as a compliment. I thank thee for thy kind words.
Splendorius loots the corpses.
You find ash where the zombies once were.
Splendorius says, okay, nobody move. Call me crazy, but I think the corpses disintegrated.
This didn't happen with the last zombies we encountered. Something is gravely amiss here.
Yes,
And maybe it's the graves themselves that these zombies have missed.
you might be right. There is clearly evil magic here at work. Perhaps there is some sort of evil wizard or necromancer. What say you, Azorio?
There could be a necromancer.
Is that how it's pronounced?
I believe so, says Azorio.
A necromancer. Necromancer. Necromancer.
Splendorious searches the room and finds nothing but ash.
Sandowish is going to search the room also, and specifically he's looking for a container.
Splendorius says, fine, I'll look myself.
And he goes to the other room.
Sandowish finds no container among that room. Splendorious enters the next room. He finds the old kitchen in this area, including brewer's vats and a huge wooden tune stand to the west, and the faint smell of yeast still permeates the air.
It still has the stink about it of a distillery. Well, might have a look around here and see what's going on.
Splendorius flips his hair back. He pulls out some lipstick and he starts putting it on his lips while he's looking.
Splendorious looks around as he puts on his lipstick, finding nothing but what remains of ale that had dried 30 years ago. All that you find is the door out the back.
Splendorius is going to go up to the back door, and before he opens it, he gets out his mirror to look at himself. He puckers his lips at the mirror, and then he puts it back in, and then he opens the door.
Splendorius opens the door and finds himself staring at the woods behind the building.
This building sucks. Sandowish, come in here and look around for, something hidden. I'm no good at this.
Splendorius then goes out into the back. He leans up against the wall. He pulls out his mirror again, and he starts powdering his face.
Sandowish is going to go into the brewery room and look for a container.
You dig among the kitchen tools and find an old tin cup.
Well, this will have to do for my studies. I've been collecting all sorts of organic matter along my journeys this year.
Perhaps you could multi-class as a necromancer.
Perhaps I will, wise one. Sandowish Hogue, the halfling rogue, goes back to collect some zombie dust in his little cup.
Sandowish digs up from the pile of the zombie ash and pours it into his little tin cup.
I put it in my bag.
He puts it into his bag with his knuckle bones or whatever.
I have a zombie pinky, I have oracle bones and twigs, I have a jade frog, I have dragon bile, I have powdered nightshade, I have mercury. I have all sorts of shit.
Sandowish puts his tin cup of zombie ash into his bag of undead bits and pieces.
It seems there's only one last thing to do here. We need to try some of this ale that I've been hearing so much about.
You follow the scent of the stale yeast to the huge tune that was once brewed in and climb up steadily to the top to look in to a dried tune. The ale has long since gone, as I said before, 30 years ago.
Sandowish climbs into the vat.
You're now at the bottom of the vat.
I'm gonna try to scrape off a yeast sample.
You take your blade and scrape a little bit of yeast off into I don't know what.
I call up from the vat. Hey, do any of you guys, have something to put some of this yeast sample in? It was a prized treasure amongst these brewers of old. Perhaps someday when we open our own venture into the brewery world, we can use this sample to start our own world-famous ale.
I'll look around. Azorio looks around for something he can put the yeast sample in.
You find nothing.
Splendorius, he's perfuming himself. He puts it away and he comes back in. He's luffed up his blonde curls.
I may have just the thing. I have a tinder box and this water skin if you want to use it. Maybe the tinder box.
And then he dumps out everything in it. Splendorius climbs up, gets to the top, and he tosses him the tinder box.
Sandowish fills the tinderbox with yeast sample for our future ventures in the brewery world.
Sandwich grabs on the side of the tank and scurries up a little bit, but slides back down because the walls are nice and slick from the dried ale.
Azorio says, we'll have to liquefy you, Sandowish, and pour you through the tap.
Oh, guys, I'm getting kind of scared. I think I'm stuck in here.
Quit your whining, Sandowish.
And then Splendorius goes back up to the top. He reaches down and he offers a gloved hand.
Come here, little man. I'll get you out of here.
Splendorius reaches in and grabs Sandwich by the scruff of his neck and slings him out of the vat easily.
There you are.
Thank you, Splendorius. Now that we've completed the quest of the missing yeast of the Brown Horse Tavern, let's continue on and destroy this dragon.
Is this yeast really that significant?
I've heard on my travels that it was a very fine ale, though I never was able to spend time here, drinking the hours away. But perhaps someday we can try the ale now that we have the lost yeast sample of the Brown Horse.
It was a franchise, was it not? Wasn't there a Brown Horse in Neverwinter as well?
Now that you mention it, I think you're thinking of the Brown Horse. That was a tavern of a little bit lesser repute. There was no roof, you see, and so they were all very, very tan and browned from the constant sun beating down on their skin. It was a depressing place, actually, if you ask me. Now that you've brought it up, I think I need to be alone for a while, actually. Anyway, now that we've got the yeast, let's say we go on to bigger things, shall we? What say we go to the tower?
Go from yeast to beast.
Oh, yes! Now we're talking.
Splendorius, he has his axe out
Guide me, oh great axe.
and then has it lead him forward towards the tower.
Do you go out and meet Sildar?
I forgot about
Sildar's playing solitaire.
Hey, Sildar, we could have used some help in there.
Well, you told me to stand out here. I wanted to make sure you weren't flanked.
Hey, look, I don't know how it is in Phandelver or wherever you're from, but in Neverwinter, we have a saying, if something's obvious, you don't have to actually say it.
So obvious. Well, should we head westward or...
Which way's the tower with the adolescent green dragon?
That was eastward, but you suddenly ran back towards us.
That's because there was a bunch of terrifying spider webs. We're gonna go that way.
Yeah, what are you, crazy? We can't go through the spider webs like that.
Well, it seems like it's the only way to the tower.
All right, let's go back to those spider webs.
We better be walking in those spider webs.
Well, if we can't get through them, we'll just...
There's no way we can cut around.
Perhaps we can just burn them. I'm sure spider webs are flammable.
Splendorius says,
Sildar, you can be honest with us. Are you a little bit scared to go to the tower?
If it means fighting a dragon, yeah, that's a pretty scary thing.
Sildar, we're serious professional adventurers, okay?
Well, I can tell after all this time.
Sildar, you can be honest with us. You can trust us. You need to communicate to us with these feelings that you're having.
Come on, Sildar. You know we're not talking about a full-grown adult dragon. We've heard from numerous sources that this is just a small baby dragon.
Yeah, this is a level 1 campaign. Come on, use your noggin.
When you put it that way, I'm follow you there.
I can't remember where we heard it, but I'm pretty sure sir, we heard that this is just a little tiny thing. We might even be able to just kidnap this dragon and ransom it off. Sell it in Neverwinter.
Or keep it as a pet. Come on, Sildar. You've always wanted a pet, haven't you? Nice little pet dragon.
If you're wanting this pet dragon, you're gonna have to go through those spider webs. The 4 stones decide to go back the way they came towards the spider webs in hopes of finding this green dragon. And 90 gold and 1 petrified turd. Wouldn't that be a good way to hide your treasures? You put it in a chest and then you just take a big steaming dump all over the top.
That's what I do at my bank. I ask them if I can just go and see the money that I have in there and just take a crap on it.
In your safety deposit box?
Has anybody ever taken a shit in a safety deposit box? That's what I want to know.
Absolutely. That has to have happened. Oh, yeah, I'd like to open a safety deposit box. Or they're like, oh man, do you guys have a public restroom? I really need to go. They're like, oh no, sir, I'm sorry, the bank restroom's for customers only. Oh, okay, I'd like to open a safety deposit box. Okay, here you go, sir. The room's all yours. And they're like, I don't have time to make it to the bathroom.
Why did we write the sequel to Dumb and Dumber?
Sponsored by Anton's mom.
Bye, Craig.
Okay,